So welcome back. Right now we're going to prep this truck for the off-road adventure we're going to take on next week. Next week we're going to go to the AOAA, that's the Anthracite off-road course in Pennsylvania, and we have to prep things to get the truck ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do to prep this truck to make sure it's ready for an off-road adventure is we're going to check over our tires. We're going to make sure that there's no gouges in the sides and make sure everything's set. Another thing is make sure your PSI is set for highway speeds. That way you're not running these things on low pressure when you're on the highway. So highway speed for mine is 29 PSI. And then when we get to the off-road course, I'll drop it down to 20. Now, I know a lot of people drop these things down to 15 PSI. And it's true, you do get a lot more grip at 15. But there's always a chance at that low of a pressure that you could debead a tire. So I always suggest that you keep it at 20 psi when you're going off-roading. That way you have a lesser chance of debeading your tires. So another thing to do to prep your truck for off-roading is check the bolts on all your parts in your vehicle. So for example, the rock sliders on this. Make sure that all the bolts are solid. Check them to make sure they're all nice and tight. Make sure you're not missing any bolts, and just make sure that everything is tight. Same goes for your skid plates. Just make sure that all the bolts are there, that you didn't damage something the last time you went off-roading. So another thing to do is make sure that all your equipment is ready to go. For example, if you have one of those skid plates that hooks to your hitch, make sure you have it in the truck when you're going, because it's kind of nice to have. I don't have one, but for you guys that have one, it's nice to have it and make sure it's in the truck. So make sure that all your equipment is in the truck and ready. And another thing, like for example, I got this little mount for a GoPro on the back. So before you go, make sure that your equipment is charged up and ready. That means that any camera you're going to have with you is charged. Your iPad, if you're using it for cameras, is charged. And if you have a walkie-talkie or something to talk with, then make sure those are charged too. That way you can talk to everybody on your trail. And just like I already said, make sure you have all your equipment with you. So for my example, I got this box of the recovery gear that I bring with me. Just make sure that all your equipment is ready. And for example, I got everything in here. I got the recovery ropes. I got an air compressor to air my tires up if I need it. So everything's here, and put it in your truck. That way you are ready to go off-roading. So any equipment that you're bringing with you, make sure you can charge it. So I got this long giant extension cord. I want to say it's 15 feet long. And this cord I run out through my door gap right over here, and it goes to the hood, to the GoPro that goes on my hood. The reason why that's important is I use the GoPro on my hood with a iPad on my dash. That way I can see exactly where my tires are at when I'm off-roading, because it's really nice to see exactly where your tires are. It saves a lot of time for people spotting where you're going to go. So another thing to have with you is have extra gas with you, because you're going to these off-road parks and you're going to spend maybe 8, 9, 10, maybe even 12 hours out there off-roading. So make sure you have some extra gasoline, because you don't want to run out of gasoline out there in the middle of the woods. And one of the final things to bring is bring a buddy, because you want to make sure that you are not alone out there. In case something does go wrong, you got a way to get out of there. So bring a buddy with you. So that pretty much sums everything up for what you need to have with you when you're going off-roading. Make sure your gas tank is full, bring some extra gas, check all your equipment to make sure everything is in working order, check your bolts to make sure everything is fine there, and just make sure that your vehicle is running in great shape. Oh, and one more tip is make sure that your windshield washer reservoir is full before you go, because you don't want to go out there and get some mud all over your windshield and not have a way to clean that off. So make sure your windshield washer reservoir is completely full, where you can just hit that button, really hit it good, clean that windshield and all that mud off of it. So that's it for this episode, and if you like what we do, please subscribe, and we'll see you later.